Thanks for tuning in today. We are continuing our study through Meditations on the Trinity by A.W. Tozer. As we walk through it, I want to encourage you to purchase the book. The link is attached to the video, so you can just click on it below. Order the book today. It will be a big help for you. You'll be able to go back and read some and read it a few times over to help your brain really wrestle with what we're talking about as we go through this. And A.W. Tozer does a great job of putting this out there for us in a way that we really need to stop and think about who is God and these character traits of God. What does this tell us about who He is and how we should live in response to who He is? So we've walked through the Trinity once, and then we talked about God the Father yesterday. Now we're talking about God the Son again today. And today's devotion is titled, "It Was a Joy." And we're talking about Jesus here. The devotion is based on Hebrews 12:2, which says, "For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." Here's what Tozer has to say. There was no moral necessity upon God to redeem mankind. He didn't have to send his Son, Jesus Christ, to die for us. He sent him, but at the same time, Jesus did it voluntarily. If God was willing, it was the happy willingness of God. A mother doesn't have to get up and feed her baby at 2 in the morning. There's no law compelling her to do that. The law probably would compel her to take some care of the little tyke, but she doesn't have to give him that loving care that she does. She wants to do it. I used to do it for our little fellows, and I enjoyed doing it. A mother and a father, they do it because they love to do it. The incarnation, too, meaning when Jesus became man, was not something that Jesus Christ did, gritting his teeth and saying, "I hate this thing. I wish I could get out of it." One of the dear old hymn writers said, "He abhorred not the virgin's womb." The writer thought about this and said, "Wait a minute, the womb of the creature. How could the everlasting, eternal, infinite God, whom space and time cannot contain, confine himself inside one of his creatures? Wouldn't it be a humiliation?" Then he smiled and said, "No, he abhorred not the virgin's womb." And he wrote it, and we've been singing it for centuries. The incarnation of Jesus Christ's immortal flesh was not a heavy thing. The second person of the Trinity, the everlasting Son, the eternal Word, made himself flesh joyously. When the angels sang about the incarnation, they sang joyously about it. In other words, Jesus wasn't forced to come and die for us. He wasn't in a place where he just had to grind his teeth and just get through this and I just have to do this because I have to do it, right? It wasn't out of moral obligation. It wasn't out of a sense of duty. It wasn't out of the Father telling him, "Hey, I want you to go do this." Rather, it was the joy of Jesus that allowed him and made him decide to joyously come and do this. To come and die on the cross for you and for me, to come and live among his creation, right? How humiliating is it that the God of all of creation, who created all things, had to step off of his throne and come down to the created and live among it, to eat the dirt and to have to walk and to experience soreness of muscle and aches and pains of life and to experience the tragedy of death and all of this. And Jesus experienced it all, and he did it on our behalf. But not only did he experience life itself as a created, Jesus did not become created, but rather he came to the created. So he comes as into creation, and as he does that, he doesn't just live here, but he also suffers and dies on our behalf. The Son of God. How on earth does that come to be? Who in their right mind says, "I love these people enough, the things that I've created"? I mean, how many of you at home have created a Lego tower or a Magnetile tower maybe, or maybe you created this really cool gaming system or this really cool room or whatever, and you love it so much that if it were to somehow be taken from you, that you would die to get it back. Okay? Like Like, how many of us would die for that which we've created? No, we could just create it again. We could just start over. We could just scrap it and start anew. But instead, Jesus says, no, I'm not going to just scrap them. I'm not just going to leave them. I'm not going to just hang them out to dry. Instead, I'm going to show them exactly what it means to live a perfect life and to come and do it, and to do so in love, and to die on the cross in love for them. And it will be my joy to do so. And that doesn't mean that Jesus's burden was light. We read in Luke, right before Jesus is about to go on trial and be beaten and crucified, that he was in such anguish about what was about to happen that he actually started to sweat blood. I mean, I don't think any of us can really say that we've been in such anguish that we started sweating blood to be in that place. And so when we look at what Jesus did for us and we understand that it wasn't out of obligation, but rather it was a joy. And he loves us so much that he was willing to do it. Man, that's the kind of love that I want to have in my life. That's the kind of love that I want to pursue, and I want to know, and I want to experience. Someone who goes completely out of their way for what is less than they are. That's what Jesus did for you, and that's what Jesus did for me. I want you to hear this prayer that Tozer puts at the end of the devotional. It says, Lord God, thank you for willingly coming to the earth and dying on my behalf. You are a selfless and loving God. May my life be pleasing to you, O Lord. I hope that today you will take time to take a step back and to simply thank God for the incredible gift that he has given you. And it's a gift that you can never repay. It's a gift that you can't give back, and you can't outgive God, right? Like you can't give him more than what he's given you. And so just take time to take a step back and say, God, thank you. Thank you for what you did for me. May I live a life that honors you in return. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.